Over the last few months, All Elite Wrestling started building up their reputation with the shows Double or Nothing, Fyter Fest, and Fight for the Fallen. However, a lot of fans and critics are starting to say that they believe that AEW will be direct competition for Vince McMahon's WWE. While I do agree that AEW has a lot to offer for wrestling fans who want an alternative to WWE, I do not think that at this point in time, they are direct competition. One of the main reasons I cannot argue that AEW will be competition for the WWE is because as of right now, we have yet to see the TNT show that AEW will be producing. The two main entities that I see WWE fans complaining about are Monday Night Raw and SmackDown Live. And without a television show for AEW to be producing, it's hard to criticize how good they are as a wrestling organization before they haven't really showed anything. Like, I know they had a couple pay-per-views, but so far this year, WWE has had 8 main roster pay-per-views plus Raw and SmackDown. Among those pay-per-views, there were some pretty awesome shows like the Royal Rumble, the Elimination Chamber, WrestleMania, and Extreme Rules, and shows like Stomping Grounds and Fastlane, while not very exciting, were still pretty decent, leaving only a couple bad pay-per-views for the year, which are Super Showdown and Money in the Bank. I understand that AEW started off great with their 3 shows, and I'm sure that All Out will be a great pay-per-view, but as of right now, I think it's hard to see how the future of the product will be when they're only producing a handful of shows, as opposed to the WWE, who produces 4 weekly shows and a couple monthly pay-per-views. I think before we can make a valid argument that the show will be competition, I think we need to see how AEW feels under the pressure of producing a large number of shows. I think it's hard to see how the quality of the show will be when we don't even know how the pressure of them putting on a lot of shows will affect the quality of the product. Now, don't get me wrong, I am not trying to argue that the WWE product is anything spectacular right now or that they don't need to lessen the amount of content that they produce, but I think producing a large number of shows can lessen the quality of any promotion, regardless of whether it's WWE, AEW, Ring of Honor, Lucha Underground, TNA, any promotion. I do think that if WWE lessened the amount of content they produce, like maybe combining NXT, NXT UK, and 205 Live, and also making Raw 2 hours, which neither of those things will ever happen, I think the quality will be pretty enjoyable as long as the writing is good. Once we see the quality of the TNT show and the pay-per-views that are going on at that point, I think we will have a better representation of how good the product will be down the line. But also, the beginning years of a new wrestling promotion will not define how good a product will be long term. Let's look at examples like WCW and TNA. WCW, while not a new promotion, started off great when Eric Bischoff took over as executive director, and we saw new storylines like the NWO and Goldberg's undefeated streak. And those new exciting storylines ultimately led to Monday Nitro's 84-week rating lead over Monday Night Raw. However, as time went on, WCW's quality greatly diminished to the point where the show was unwatchable, and this was because of WCW's creative team's lack of reinventing and innovation, and also because of the backstage politicking of stars like Kevin Nash and Hulk Hogan. Then a few years later, a new NWA promotion called Total Nonstop Action was created, and it became a new big player in the world of professional wrestling. With rising stars like Samoa Joe, AJ Styles, Austin Aries, and Robert Roode, along with legends like Sting, Kurt Angle, Rob Van Dam, and Bully Ray, it seemed like this promotion had all the assets necessary to become a major player in professional wrestling. And after a while, people started to believe that this company would be the one to take down the WWE. However, just like WCW, over time, the quality of programming got worse and worse, and people started to lose faith in TNA. I think the biggest problem with WCW and TNA is that they got caught up in trying to defeat the WWE in a ratings war. Both of these promotions decided to go head-to-head with Monday Night Raw, and it ended badly for both of them. WCW eventually went out of business, and TNA lost their reputation that they spent years prior trying to build up. If AEW continues to be on the road that they claim to be going on, which is trying to be an alternative to WWE and not necessarily competition, I think that they will be very successful. Onto the idea that AEW is an alternative to WWE. When I watched the show Double or Nothing, which was their first big pay-per-view, I was thinking more about the fact that this was a product that I was very excited to start watching, and less about the fact that I think they could put the WWE out of business. If you watch the two products side by side, you will notice a big difference in the style of both wrestling and entertainment that each show provides. AEW provides more of a sports-centric product, while the WWE provides more of a story-driven product. This is why in the WWE you see main event stars like Roman Reigns, John Cena, and Randy Orton, while in the AEW you see main event stars like Cody Rhodes, the Young Bucks, Hangman Adam Page, Chris Jericho, Kenny Omega, most of their stars. The two products cannot be any more different, and they also provide two very different styles of wrestling for two very different types of fans. Some people like AEW more, some people like WWE more, some people might like them about even, and then some people might just not like either of them. They might like Lucha Underground or Ring of Honor or New Japan, something like that. I think that in order for them to be seen as direct competition, I think that they would have to be meant for the same exact kind of wrestling fans. So AEW would have to be more character driven and focus more on having crazy storylines, or WWE would have to focus more on having long athletic wrestling matches and a little less on the storylines. And yeah, both companies have aspects of both in their programming, but obviously one is more focused on one and the other is more focused on the other. A company that in recent memory tried to make an attempt to be direct competition for WWE, which I mentioned earlier, was TNA or Impact Wrestling, whatever you'd like to call it. They had a large focus on crazy storylines like Claire Lynch, Aces and Eights, and the Broken Universe. Sure, a lot of their storylines were horrendous, but they were doing their best to be competition for WWE and provide a very similar product to what they were putting on. And what they were trying to do with all of these crazy storylines was trying to make it more compelling for someone who was a WWE fan so that they would come over to TNA and start watching their programming. Now TNA has really shifted their focus from the crazy storytelling, but their tarnished reputation from trying to compete with the WWE has really made people lose excitement in the product that they produce regardless of how good it is. And now I know what some people might be thinking, WWE is trying to change their products so that it's more edgy and more exciting, and they think it's all because of AEW, but honestly I don't think it has that much to do with AEW, like maybe a little bit, but I think it mostly has to do with the fact that they have been at a ratings low for a long time and they're trying to boost the ratings. They're about to move to Fox. They can't really have low ratings. I think that's pretty much just what it is, because they've pretty much been at a ratings low for like 3 years. So they're just trying to like do whatever they can to like get the ratings up. And yeah, sure, maybe in a few years I may feel differently about the idea that AEW is competition for WWE. The products may end up being consistently good and start bringing something to offer all types of wrestling fans, but as of right now, I just don't see it as direct competition. Time will tell, but for now, I don't see it as competition for WWE.